And sorry, I just started recording because I forgot. So Chris is the president of GetintheLoop, and he has previously worked with companies such as Google US and UK, 3M, ADT, Avis, Zipcar. He has also previously working with GetintheLoop. He was the vice president of Mediative Consulting Group, which is an award-winning digital media research company, and he was head of consulting there as well. So Chris is responsible for supporting the company's growth strategy across all divisions here, and GetintheLoop is Canada-wide. Additionally to Chris, joining us today is Jason Mann, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for GetintheLoop. Chris is responsible for, Jason is a brand consultant. Sorry, my notes here. So Chris has been working with GetintheLoop. He has 20 plus years of experience with brand consulting. He has co-founded Vista Radio, which grew from 1 to 50 radio stations. He's also previously worked with Business Development Bank of Canada. Jason takes a data-driven approach to building digital audiences and businesses. So thank you both for joining us today. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it along to you guys. So thank you so much. Oh, just one quick housekeeping. We will be allowing questions. So everybody, there's a little chat function at the bottom of your screen. Please put your questions in there. You can direct it to everybody, and I'll read the questions out at the end of the presentation, and we'll get to them in order. So thanks again for joining us today, and off to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. And my intro piece is pretty short. We'll hand it over to Chris, who's really going to drive most of the presentation. But as Jennifer mentioned, we are here both to answer any questions that you have about anything. And I think you'll find today's presentation very interesting as we're going through times of rapid evolution, and technology is playing such a central role in that. So Chris, I hand the presentation over to you.
Excellent. Thanks, thanks, Jason, and thanks, Jennifer, and thanks to the Squamish Chamber for having us as well. This is a topic I'm super passionate about. Our company builds technology to help small businesses become better marketers. And as Jen mentioned, prior to GetintheLoop, I spent a decade working with some of the largest tech companies in the US, helping them better understand their digital audience. Even though they're large tech companies, the behavior that people exhibit using smartphones and using technology changes very rapidly. And that experience in doing consumer research, I'm going to share a little bit of that today with how small businesses, specifically in Canada, are using technology to adapt their business. As Jason mentioned, over the last 90 days, the crunch time has come for businesses to adapt to technology quickly and use technology to better facilitate the engagement with consumers that are, quite honestly, on the couch and working from home and not walking by your storefront. So let's dive in and look at the topics we're going to cover today. So mainly what we want to focus on today is how mobile technology is used, how consumers are using it today, and the difference between how they were consuming content and information compared to how they're consuming that content and information today via mobile technology. Also, we want to cover how small businesses are adapting to technology. So how are they onboarding technology to improve their business? Another key piece is how COVID is affecting the use of technology by consumers and businesses, and how can we learn from that? The other key piece is how businesses are pivoting to survive during this time. And finally, playing the long game. What technology is here to stay? What technology can a business bet on that's going to help them improve their business in the long term? So let's dive in. Our first topic is mobile usage and trends that you just can't ignore. We all know that traditional media is starting to erode in markets, but the main driver for that is how consumers are consuming information today. Local television that used to have commercial segments where local advertisers would be able to promote their goods and services and offerings to the local market is dynamically changed. Consumers are not consuming local television like they used to. They're streaming content today. They're streaming Netflix series and Disney Plus and Apple TV, they're not getting exposed to local content like they used to. Local radio and local newspaper is falling into the same sort of behavioral exhibits that we're seeing. So in radio, for example, people are streaming Spotify or Pandora or Apple Music. They're not getting exposed to that localized content that has previously existed and been accessible for small businesses to advertise. And finally, local newspapers. We're seeing headlines even recently as 2 weeks ago that large publishers and newspaper groups are pulling out of local marketplaces. It's just not viable for them anymore with the activity of consumers going online today. One of the challenges with consumers going online to consume news is they're consuming it in very different ways. They're consuming it from large international organizations, the CNNs of the world. They're also consuming local content through Twitter streams, or they're consuming it through Facebook feeds. And so the dynamic of how people are accessing content today is changing. And it's not just changing for the young millennial or Gen X group, it's also changing for boomers as well. The stats along the bottom, they're probably small for you to see. I'll just quote a couple of them. Even the 55 to 64 age group, 85% of that audience is using a smartphone today to consume content, which means they're consuming content in the ways that I just previously mentioned. The 35 to 44 age group, 98.2% of that audience uses smartphone devices to access content today. And as you can see, every core demographic has proliferated with a smartphone device. And so the behavior of that audience needs to be understood to understand how a business can get in front of a consumer that's actually harder to reach today than they were before, based on what they're consuming and how they're consuming it. So let's dive into the numbers. 92% of online internet users stream content today through video. They are streaming services that are disintermediating where local media would traditionally be. There's over 180 million, it's actually now 200 million as of a couple months ago, paid audio subscribers worldwide. People streaming music on Spotify and Apple Music and other music streaming services, which is dynamically changing the marketplace. Another shocking stat is almost half of the daily time spent using the internet is on a mobile device today. The majority of consumers that are consuming content are consuming that content on a smartphone device and not on even a desktop or laptop device, which they did 4 to 5 years ago. I'm going to show a few more stats on that. This is really to set the stage to understand how a business can start to operate in front of a mobile consumer today. The largest area of growth is obviously mobile. When we look back just over 10 years ago, the hours or time that somebody is spending on a device was around, for a desktop device, around 2.2 hours per day. A mobile device was just about 0.3 hours. That was just over 10 years ago. When we flash forward to today's environment, mobile is the dominant factor. Over 3.6 hours a day is spent on a mobile device, and that has increased in the last 90 days, now that consumers are at home on the couch versus out and about in the city. And mobile continues to dominate our attention, and it's presenting the largest opportunity for advertisers. It's the opportunity to get in front of your audience in a way that is convenient for them, but more challenging for you. So let's look at how that's starting to unfold. The biggest indicator of where an audience is normally where ad dollars are starting to shift. We're seeing the shift in ad dollars from traditional media to digital media. That shift has been happening over the last 10 years. But as we look at the shift from a desktop device or a tablet to a smartphone device and a mobile device, there's a large factor that's coming into control there. And the biggest factor is the screen size of a smartphone. The screen size of a smartphone limits the amount of advertising that can be put in front of somebody versus looking at a large desktop screen or looking at a web page or a home page of a traditional website. Those are a larger landscape which you can place advertising on to get in front of a consumer. A smartphone device has less screen size, which means there's less area of opportunity to get in front of an audience, which is causing it to be more costly because it's very competitive to get in front of an audience today. And so within these trends, the average customer acquisition cost has continued to climb and even exceed break-even value for a lot of businesses. The cost to get in front of a consumer on a smartphone device is becoming increasingly expensive. And this trend is not sustainable. It's putting pressure on new alternatives to arise in local marketplaces to take place of that local newspaper or that local radio station that potentially was the old way to communicate to a consumer. Now the modern way to communicate to a consumer, as we indicated and as the data is showing us, is on their smartphone, but it's becoming costly. So how do you kind of approach the marketplace in a savvy way and win and drive your business forward? So let's look at how small businesses are adapting to technology. But first, let's look at the landscape in Canada. The majority of businesses in Canada are small businesses. They're less than 500 employees. Over half of the businesses in Canada are less than 5 employees. And so small businesses are the bedrock of our economy, of the ecosystem. Small businesses employ 71% of Canadians, and almost 90% of all new jobs are created by small businesses. So we all understand how critical the SMB market is to the economy in Canada, as well as to the livelihood of the majority of Canadians. But as these small businesses are having a challenge adapting to technology, it's creating pressure on that ecosystem. So let's look at how that system looks. The small business market is a large market. In Canada, there's about 1.2 million SMBs. There's 60 million English-speaking SMBs around the world, and there's between 460 and 600 million globally. It is kind of the dominant the space, and it's extremely fragmented. The key drivers of change of a small business today is the changing demographics. It's projected by 2025, 3/4 of small businesses will be run by millennials. And run by doesn't necessarily mean owned by. So in that context, a manager or a decision maker in that business is somebody that's going to be more digitally savvy. We call them digital natives. They're people that are comfortable with technology. They're comfortable with trying new things, and they're going to be dramatically changing how the small business marketplace works and their use of technology. Technology adoption by consumers is the key driver ultimately. Where your consumer audience goes or where your customers are is where you need to pivot your business. And traditional media effectiveness is eroding. So that's really the opportunity. How do you then take your next step towards engaging your modern consumer and that consumer of the future, the consumer that's going to drive your business for the next 5, 7, 10, 15 years? That's the audience that you're trying to engage with today. The other important piece of the SMB market is it's an evergreen market. There's 10,000 new businesses that are started every month in Canada. That means it's constantly being replenished with new entrants into the market that create new competitive pressures and new dynamics in the marketplace. And so the marketplace is continually growing, and it grows faster and it's replenished faster than a mid-size or large marketplace. Another key piece is there's no monopolies in terms of providers for small businesses. The small business market is so large and so fragmented. No one vendor provides solutions for every single small business that's out there. And so that means the choices are vast. And so how do you take that next step in making sure that your business is selecting the right technology and also understanding where your digital audience is? But the key thing for SMBs or small medium businesses is they're looking for products that actually help them grow their business that are painkillers. You can't live without them. They're key elements of your business that become the new normal as you start to build your business to engage the modern consumer. So let's look at how businesses are adapting today. Just 60% of small businesses have a website. That may seem crazy when you look at that stat, but that means 40% of them don't. So how does a digital consumer engage with them effectively? That same percentage of small businesses invest in social media marketing. So if they don't have a website, they're still not investing in other aspects to engage that audience that is continually evolving. Only 26% are investing in email marketing today. One of the benefits of email marketing is it's a way to take that marketing dollar that you've used to acquire somebody and then use email to continue to engage them in a very one-to-one basis that is cost effective as you can get at that stage. And so today, when your consumers are not out on the street and they're at home and they're your regular customers, the best way to communicate with them would be email today, if you had an email database of those consumers. But a majority of small businesses don't have an email marketing program. A quarter of small businesses invest in online marketing. Only 17% are investing in search engine optimization, or SEO, which is really how you rank when somebody types in a query into Google or into Bing. Only half of small business owners use less than 2 software platforms or applications in their marketing. So the ones that are adapting technology are not looking at all the solutions available. They're really just picking less than 2. Less than 30% of small businesses use website analytics or call tracking or coupon codes. 18% of small businesses admit to not even tracking anything digitally in their business, which is really hard to learn and evolve in how you can engage your modern consumer when you don't truly understand what that consumer is doing. 43% of SMBs say that improving customer experience and retention is their top strategy to improve revenue growth. If customer experience is the top strategy, that means digital technology needs to be a close second to be able to enable that customer experience. It makes it easy for them to find you and easy for them to engage with you wherever they are. And so let's look at the top challenges. There was a study in 2019 by the SMB group that looked at a large sample of small businesses in North America and tried to understand why small businesses aren't adapting to technology as quickly as they need to. This was some of the results. 41% say that it's just too difficult to integrate technology with their systems. 37% say it's hard to figure out the best solution for me. 34% say we don't have the skills to support technology. 29% say there's no time to focus on this. A same percentage say it seems too expensive to fund technology, and overall they're unsure how to execute to achieve their goals. So it's really a scenario where they don't know what they don't know, because there's so many options in the marketplace. Technology can seem confusing because of the language that people use around it. It's really about the simplicity. Ultimately, you're trying to get a potential customer to understand what you're offering and incentivize them to come into your location and understand the experience that you're able to provide, or the service or the solutions or the products that you're able to provide. So to get that first interaction with them, you either need to have a location that's first in main, where you're getting the majority of your traffic that's able to see you, or you need to figure out how you determine your kind of first in main in a digital way. How do you get in front of the ideal audience that you're looking for? And where is that audience today? Are they on social platforms? Are they downloading apps? Are they getting influenced by their peer group? How do you start to disseminate your information among this modern consumer? And so let's look at how technology use is being implemented during the last 90 days, I guess we're going into now. Well, the economy has slowed, which truly means people are at home and not out and about. What has that done to the marketplace today? So let's look at technology use. One of the key things that we look at when we look at technology use is the drivers of what that's going to exhibit. And so when we look at digital media usage in Canada, we're seeing extremely strong growth because as people are at home, their access to the marketplace is all digital. And so their consumption of digital technology and digital usage is going up 30% week on week on week. And we're seeing this continued trend even as we get into the weeks that we're in today. And so as we start to look at mobile versus desktop usage, you would assume as people are at home more that they're using their desktop device more. That's actually false. They're using their mobile device more. And you can see from these stats are continuous into the weeks of today. Mobile usage is still dominating consumers while they're at home. While they're at home and on the couch or in their makeshift home office that they've made, they're still accessing most of their content through their smartphone device today because it's created a habit. That habit has not gone away. How they consume news content, how they consume other content that's social or other aspects of their life, it's still flowing through a mobile device predominantly. versus a desktop device or traditional media. How the intent of a consumer has changed over that time. This was a study that occurred very early on. So as we get into early March, this was the indication of the marketplace, that 75% of consumers will avoid shopping centers, 53% will avoid all shops in general, 60% of consumers will avoid restaurants. This was the initial reaction to the marketplace. And now let's look at the impact during real time. Spending has shifted dramatically. When we look at the variables of where less spending occurred versus more spending occurred, obviously less spending was impacted the most with some of the larger implementations of the marketplace. Airlines and cruises and fitness centers and hotels were dramatically impacted because of the raw shutdown. But also other aspects like apparel. You would think that one of the most advanced sectors in the marketplace is e-commerce and apparel, but with people not going out as much anymore and also the uncertainty in the market, buying apparel and the way that apparel is bought has dramatically been impacted. And so when we look at where spending has shifted towards, it's been in areas like home improvement and general merchandise and e-commerce solutions that they're using while they're in their house. Obviously food and alcohol are big, but video streaming and food delivery and meal kits and online groceries, those sorts of elements is where the dollars have started to shift based on the behaviors of the marketplace. And when we look at brick and mortar retail, obviously one of the more dramatically impacted areas, everywhere from discount department stores where a lot of their product is run through their business so quickly they don't get it up online. Those sorts of areas that require physical interaction in the service type businesses of places like eyewear and those sorts of things are ones that are dramatically impacted the most and would have had to adapt their business the fastest to be able to offset this curve of data. Obviously, restaurants sales have been impacted significantly, and delivery services have picked up that gap. Fine dining, casual dining, even down to fast food have all been impacted by the behavior of the audience in today's current environment. Now, as the market is starting to open back up, we're seeing this across the country and specifically in BC in this week. We're starting to see different rules coming into play. As those come into play, we'll start to see the behavior of an audience, but a lot of the behavior that's occurred over the last 90 days will be behavior that still occurs in the future 90 days because the market will not just flick back on. And so understanding how your business continues to adapt, not only for today, but for the long term. Some of these habits that are being formed are habits that will continue on and will require a business to permanently think about how they change their engagement strategy in a market. One of the more encouraging things is that the interest on local or where somebody is mattering more than the interest on kind of national. And so local still does matter. We're seeing a resurgence in local content that people want to see more of. There's more visits to local news sites than there is to general sites. And that's an encouraging thing to see. When things like this happen, people want to understand their current environment that they're in, and they think more about community. They're starting to think local more and more than ever. And that is a habit that is looking to be ingrained in the marketplace. Thinking local, acting local, staying connected. Those are attributes that are occurring during this time that we believe will be here for the long term as the market starts to open back up. One of the more interesting studies, this is a longitudinal study by RBC Capital Markets. They asked the same group the same question. And this question I pulled out in particular: have you purchased online groceries? Back 5 years ago, the majority did not buy online groceries. But the most dramatic thing is even as 2018 came around, the majority still did not ever order online groceries. But in March of 2020, that was the first time ever that these scales tipped, that more people said yes to ordering online groceries than no. The more surprising effect of this is 41% who said yes also said that they would order online more frequently in the future. Now, this is not just about online groceries. This is about a behavior that gets formed. Once somebody breaks the barrier and the comfort level of ordering online, entering a credit card, trusting delivery, trusting somebody else to pick out their produce and their fruit and get it delivered, that breaks a lot of barriers in online consumption. What is the next thing that you're more comfortable now in ordering online or engaging with online than you were before? This is a seismic shift in trust and thinking in how a consumer will operate today. And we're seeing this dramatically. When we go back to some of the early countries that were affected in December and January, in less than 60 days, new consumer habits are being formed. In China and Italy, consumers were shopping more frequently online, but they also indicated that they would continue to shop online for things that they would usually buy in store. March saw a record number of the average downloads with grocery apps. There was a 10 times increase in online delivery sales. The trend appears to show no signs of slowing down. We're seeing this in every market that is impacted this way because the access to content through digital and mobile devices is proliferated the globe. And so this behavior and cycle is something that's proliferated society. Research also suggests that the growth of entertainment subscriptions will continue to rise year on year on year. The most important element of online subscriptions is those entertainment subscriptions of Disney Plus and Netflix and Spotify and others. That's causing that further disintermediation of local media access. So a business then gets less access to a local consumer market through traditional means. And so what's happened in the last 90 days is actually expanding the gap to access your audience, which means you need to adapt to technology even quicker and speed up that cycle. We're estimating that, what that's done is potentially sped up the need to adapt to technology probably by 18 months or 2 years. The need to do that today is going to be significant on a business. So let's look at how some businesses are adapting. In the short term, immediately, businesses were shifting to delivery or pickup orders. They were changing operating hours to accommodate their community. They were focused on buy now, use later promotions. They're shifting to online classes and programs. They're reaching their customers through mobile apps and email marketing more directly. They're adding new products that they've never sold before, and they're selling them through e-commerce to enable new revenue generation in their business. They're promoting physical distancing services so that you can start to develop a comfort level with a consumer that knows that your business is taking this seriously and that you're a safe place to engage with. Those are all very key elements and drivers that will engage support from a consumer today. Now let's look at some of the other promotions that people are using to connect with people that are on the couch today and not walking by your storefront. So things like free grocery delivery when you spend a certain amount, promoting that you're open and that you could use support. In the sales world, asking for the sale is always the key thing that you train your sales team. As a business owner today, asking for support is an okay thing. Asking for consumers to remember your business when you're looking for a product or service that you have is an important message to get out today. One of the key things that we're seeing is when a sector, let's use restaurants, shifts to focus on delivery, there's a majority set, let's say 60% of restaurants traditionally do delivery. And so they are considered in the consideration set of a consumer. But there are bars and restaurants and fine dining establishments that don't traditionally do delivery that are now trying to do delivery, but they're not in the consideration set of a consumer. They haven't created habits to order from the same pizza place or the same Thai restaurant or the same Japanese location that you would normally order from on a Friday night. The behaviors have changed. How do you stimulate purchasing takeout and delivery on a Wednesday, which might seem odd for people because they normally order takeout on Fridays and Saturdays. And so those are the types of messages that just need to get out there. And they're very basic, simple messages, but businesses that don't have that sort of support need to get that message out. Other things like having early bird shopping hours and promoting those elements, showing happy hours or discount programs or online courses now. This is how businesses are starting to adapt to people. And they're adapting to them through apps or through direct email or advertising through mobile devices. That's really how this message is getting out. What we wanted to share with you today is 3 technology companies that are offering ways that you can use their technology to engage the mobile consumer. Shopify, a Canadian company based in Ottawa, provides an e-commerce solution. They have a free 90-day program available for small businesses in Canada that will allow a small business to pivot to sell things online today. So if you're trying to sell gift cards, if you're trying to sell some of your products through e-commerce today, that's a great solution that is low cost, that you can dip your toe in the water to pivot your business to engage somebody that is online today and not walking by your storefront. Obviously, our company, GetintheLoop, provides the ability for you to promote that message out to your local marketplace. We have a program through the Squamish Chamber that you can join. We'll have that call to action at the end of the presentation today, so that you can start to promote through a smartphone device to those consumers that you're trying to reach. And a Vancouver-based company, Hootsuite, offers a free version of their platform to help you monitor social media and become better at engaging a social audience today. So there are tools available that can allow you to dip your toe into the modern technology that's going to allow you to engage the consumer that's harder and harder to reach today. So in summary, some of the things we covered today. We know mobile usage has proliferated the mainstream. It's here to stay. It's not going away. The average consumer touches their smartphone 2,500 times a day. You've probably had that feeling when you've left your home and you forgot your phone at home. It's amazing the lengths people will go to turn around and make sure they get that. They feel like they've lost a limb if they don't have their smartphone with them today. New habits are being formed that require small businesses to adapt for the long term and not just today. And I think that's an important message. This is not a short-term solution. This is a long-term solution that you're looking for in your business for the long term. COVID has basically shone a light on small businesses and the need for them to have better technology and to adapt quickly to the marketplace. Small businesses are the last to adapt to this trend, and they're suffering for it. The ones that can accommodate to this will be the ones that come out of this thriving. And can be that kind of dominant small business that has that next run of 5, 7, 8, 15 years ahead of them to adapt to the future changes in the marketplace. And mobile marketing needs more innovative solutions in small local markets for business owners. There is not enough today. There needs to be more. With the fragmentation of traditional media, there's other needs that are required for small businesses to move forward. So the market is open for that. And so just to close off today, with our partnership with the Squamish Chamber of Commerce, you can get a free listing on GetintheLoop and promote 5 offers to your local market and engage that market through push notifications and daily email and other functionalities in our platform. The contact information's here for Kurt, who's our local owner and operator in the Squamish area. There's a great team there that can help you create offers and think through the strategy to engage these consumers that you're trying to reach today. So I'd encourage you to reach out to the Chamber and to Kurt directly for that program. And so I will toss it back to Jen and to Jay, and we'd happy to answer any questions that you might have about anything related to digital marketing as a whole. So I'll pass it back over to Jay and Jen.
Maybe while Jen is just scrolling through the Q&A and chat box looking for the questions, I might just note as well, GetintheLoop has just launched a new podcast called Clicks and Mortar, and it's a podcast that's for and featuring small business owners across Canada. What we're trying to create is an audio resource of the stories and the solutions that very innovative retailers and small business operators across the country have implemented, and those that are willing to share their successes, their wins, their losses. It's a growing collection, and you can hear it on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, if you have any small businesses in the Squamish area who you think might be of value in hearing more about their story, would love to be introduced to them to see if they'd be interested in being interviewed.
Yeah, Jay, I'll just make a comment on that. One of the great things that we're seeing is businesses want to collaborate more with each other to learn from each other during this process. And that's one of the, I think, key reasons that Jay has created this podcast series, which is trying to share those stories. What we're finding is businesses that are going through some of the things that we talked about today, they're unsure of what technology to use. It's very confusing what to pick, and are they picking the right thing? Do they have the knowledge to operate that technology? It helps to hear how other business owners are kind of breaking through and figuring out how they can add technology to their business and adapt and evolve during this time. It's an extremely helpful thing to just hear your peer group basically discuss those types of things. So I would highly encourage you guys to listen to Clicks and Mortar. It's a powerful conduit, I think, for you to start to make decisions on your own about your own business.
All right, guys, I'm back. I wasn't quick enough to unmute myself there. So I do have a bunch of questions here from the audience, and I would like to start with the first one here, that where should I start if my business doesn't have a website? And is there a process I should go through to determine which social channels I should invest in?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you don't have a website today, the most important thing is to understand who your audience is and who your audience is trying to reach. So that can be different, obviously, for every vertical of business that exists, but it could be, you know, somebody that is a real estate agent versus somebody that's a restaurant versus somebody that maybe has a lawn care service. Who your audience is and who you're trying to target is all completely different. And so the first thing that you can do, I would encourage you to use a few research sites online to understand the type of audience that you're trying to target and where they tend to go online today. There's lots of free research online that you can look up and try and find out in the market that you're in, so the country. So in Canada, I'm trying to target it could be, you know, females between the ages of 25 and 44. What are the most popular online sources for that community? You might find that Pinterest is a strong source that tends to gather that community. You might find Instagram is a strong source. You might even find TikTok is a strong force. Some of these things might seem like foreign objects to you because you're not participating in those communities today. But I would encourage you to drive your business to start to participate in those communities. At least sign up for the platforms, understand how they work, watch people engage in those platforms to understand how to communicate. One of the biggest things, and I think the misnomers with social media, is when people first get involved in it, they try and sell on those platforms. It's really about engagement and being part of the community. So if you are trying to target businesses, for example, and other businesses in your community to sell them services or products, I would encourage you to follow those businesses, understand what they're communicating, understand the sources of information that they're using, be part of their community and bring solutions to them and not necessarily sell them. And those are kind of key areas. But then the first next step then is, once you find out where your community is, how do you start to engage with that community? If the community is social, you need to start to get active social, creating a social profile potentially for your business and engaging that way on some of the things I talked about. There's also some great educational tools from some of the partners I mentioned today. Hootsuite's a prime example. There's lots of educational videos and webinars available on how you can start to dip your toe in that space. And there's also a lot of very cost-effective ways to create a website today. You can create a website for a very nominal amount of money that will allow you to get an online presence and start to communicate to an audience. But the one thing about a website is a website creates a conduit for you, but you still need to make sure that you can create visibility for that website as well. So that's how you would use social media to drive people back to your website to find out more. The call to action that you have drives people back to that asset. And so starting to figure out where your audience is step one. Step two from that is then aligning to that audience with a solution that's going to facilitate communication with them. I'm happy to, my information's on the screen here. I'm happy to have a second conversation with you and point you in the right direction on how you can get started and get started for a nominal amount of money. One thing I would always recommend somebody when you're first starting in this path is don't go out and spend a whole bunch of dollars before you truly understand your audience. There's a lot of inexpensive tools that you can kind of guerrilla market yourself to the point of better knowledge. And once you know more, you do better. And that's kind of the key thing with understanding how to take that first step.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I have another question here. What are the most successful offers that you see on your platform? Discounts of 3 for 2, something unique. You talked about a resurgence in local, think local, act local. How local is local? is Squamish, Sea to Sky, Vancouver and Coast province, I'm thinking about special offers for locals and how to determine what we consider local.
Yeah, that's great. And it's interesting. That's an interesting debate. Local as a term might have got overused in the last several years, but let's look at the construct of it. So local is what local means to the individual. And so when I'm somewhere, like if I go to Squamish and I live in Kelowna, I want to know what the local places are, the cool things in that local market to do. Like where is the best sandwich, or where's a cool coffee shop, or those unique places. And so local doesn't just mean attracting a local consumer. Local means bringing out the best of your local market to anyone that happens to be in that marketplace. And so that's, I think, an important distinction with that is, especially when you're in a corridor between, one of the largest cities in North America in Vancouver and one of the best resorts in the world, there's a lot of traffic that goes by that location, and local is all relative to everyone that's going by. So that's one element. Back to kind of the core of the question is what offers are resonating today. It all depends on business by business, but what might surprise you in an offers platform like ourselves, an offer in our world is not necessarily just a discount. And most of the highly engaged offers are not the price discount offer, it's the unique offer. So for example, one of our best performing offers ever in our platform is when a cool microbrewery comes to a bar and does a tap takeover. And they have all of their beer there in one location. Some of these you can't get in a liquor store, you can't get anywhere else. And so that creates a certain buzz in a community that starts to drive interest and engagement, because it's almost that kind of serendipitous moment when a friend or you bump into someone and they say, hey, you should go over there, there's something really cool to see. And you go and discover that, and it turns out to be a really cool experience. That's what we're trying to create and curate in our platform itself, is bring those things to the surface so that a business can promote what's special about them. Some of the other interesting offers that perform really well are ones that have a feature to them, like a limited use offer. There's only 10 of it available, or 20 in a week, or you can only use it once a day. Some of those things can be something as simple as a growler fill. When a limited release is out, we have wineries that give early access to a vintage that's coming out, or you can get a free tasting of something that's being released that the public hasn't seen yet. So those unique things create a ton of interest and a ton of activity. But there are some table stakes that some businesses have built a Sunday brunch with. So it might be a 2-for-1 Sunday brunch that's running for a 60-day period that starts to curate an audience. You normally don't eat brunch by yourself, so you bring your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your family, and it starts to create an experience that you're having in this location that allows you to start to be a conduit for that business to market as well, to promote to friends and family and others. And those sorts of offers can stimulate an area of your business to create a strong revenue source over the long term. So those are types of things that work really well. We do have offer guides available for every types of vertical that's in our platform that shows 10, 15, 20 different options of offers that work really well. We also have a trending offer category as well. Happy to share any of that content with any business owner that's looking to promote themselves.
That's wonderful. And one of the features of GetintheLoop is that businesses can update their offers, features right away with no delays. They just have to access their dashboard in the back end, and they can change things on the go as things change. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So any business can put 5 offers live in our platform, and they can take those down and update their offer in real time. When you create a new offer in the platform and you hit basically submit, it will then be live on the app, and you will see that within about a 10-minute period. So it kind of goes through our curation internally, but it publishes live instantaneously. And there's also a dashboard associated with every offer. So you see how many people saw an offer, how many people engaged or clicked on an offer and read it, and most importantly, how many people actioned an offer. So actually used the offer that you're promoting. So you get real-time analytics, and you can start to understand how your offer is resonating with your local audience. and as well as the demographic profile. With each offer as well, you see if it's resonating more with males or females and what age group it's resonating with. And sometimes it surprises business owners of what demographic profile is actually using an offer compared to what they tried to build it for. And that's real-time insight that you can use and learn and to adapt your business as well.
Yes, that's very helpful. So one more question here. We talked about how, SMEs make up the majority of our economy, and how they're all fractioned and not, there's no monopoly currently over that. But, we do see businesses like Amazon in the marketplace as well. So how does a local business compete online with like a large multinational company or even like brand manufacturers?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And that's a big question to unpack. Just one thing maybe to set the stage is right now, to target Canadians, advertisers are importing media from Google and Facebook and Amazon, and 87% of all the digital media advertising that's invested in Canada is sent to those companies. And so there's a challenge in the marketplace because we're basically using US companies to target Canadians to advertise. So that's something right now. There's a lot of lobbying and a lot of support around trying to support local media as well in that landscape. But those large direct-to-consumer brands and the Amazons of the world, the way to compete with companies like that is to compete in your localized marketplace. If you are offering a commoditized product in the market, that's going to be a very hard thing. But when you start to offer things that are appealing and used by locals, and also you can get in front of that kind of local, think local, act local movement, there's ways that you can carve out certain sections of behaviors with people. Some people will naturally want to support local to support their community, and that's a small section. But ultimately, if you're selling a commoditized good, people will look for the easiest way to get it at the cheapest price. So you might want to look at your business composition of the products and services that you have, and how can you make them more unique, that they're not a commoditized good, that it's a race to the bottom. A lot of it has to do with product mix and product market fit in a marketplace, so that you can compete with those large companies that are really just about how can they make the order system as fast as possible and the price as low as possible. That is a model that doesn't make a healthy society eventually. So how can you maybe augment or think about ways that you can make your business a little bit different? One of the, I think, misnomers about Amazon is, yes, they are selling lots of commoditized goods online and lots of different product, but a lot of the small businesses that exist in a marketplace are things that you cannot buy online. You cannot go get your haircut online with Amazon. That's not a service that they have. You have to go to a salon or a spa to do that. Having your lawn care maintenance company, getting your windows cleaned, doing all those types of things are service-oriented businesses that require physical interaction in local markets. There's a large segment of businesses that make up those areas. If you are selling, electronics, or you're selling other elements that you're going head-to-head with Amazon, you need to look at your product market fit and how your composition of products and how you add physical services to those products, which will create uniqueness for your business. So if you're going to target an audience that is trying to find the best price on a television, but has a horrible time, hooking that up and getting their systems integrated at home so that it plays through their speaker system, or they can onboard Netflix, you can have a service element that you tie onto a product that allows you to differentiate yourself and compete with somebody who can't win at that game. So you have to play the game that you're best suited to win versus trying to play a game that you're not best suited to win. That's kind of the generic advice there, but we'd have to talk one-on-one to dig into your business specifically.
Definitely, those are great points. And so when a business gets on the loop, is there additional support for them to learn better marketing techniques, like you said, to use some of these more localized features, like the unique offers and the featured listings and stuff like that? Is there additional, service or training for them to get up to speed with the new trends in mobile marketing?
Great. Jay, do you want to maybe answer that one and talk about our local owners in the market and our service team?
Yeah, by all means. So Get in the Loop really has three components to it. It's getting partners on, getting members on, and helping partners reach those members through these creative offers. And so we have a success team that is there to support our local owners, Kurt in this case, and Kurt being a marketer himself, has ideas and is there as almost a virtual consultant, if you will, to those who sign up to Get in the Loop. So there's somebody in your market who knows your market, who's available and interested in talking to you, and is supported by this team back in Kelowna at headquarters who all they spend their time looking across the country at how offers are performing and coming up with creative ideas for our partners across the country. So there's quite a bit of support there, and we're always available by phone or Zoom or Google Hangout to help.
Fantastic. And I might have missed this, but when people, want to redeem or buy an offer on the Loop, how do they go about that through the app? Is it, one push of a button? Do they get redirected to the business's website? How does it look from the consumer end?
Depending on the type of offer that you create, there are different calls to action, basically, and what we call actually actions. And so if it's something that you want or need for the consumer to redeem in your store, you can select a button that would basically say redeem now or use now. But if it's a online offer, something that you want to push somebody to an online Shopify store, or maybe it's a registration for an event, we track those actions, and you can change that action to say, click here or whatever the actual button says, which I can't remember off the top of my head at the moment. And then there's also for something like a pizza restaurant or somewhere where you want to take a reservation or just generate a phone call. We have the ability to, within the click of a button, call now. So it's quite flexible, and it gives you lots of options depending on what type of offer you'd like to put it into the app.
Awesome, thank you. Well, it seems, from your presentation that mobile marketing is basically a wide open frontier for many businesses to adapt to this new technology. And it sounds like the sooner businesses get on to this new trend, not a trend, because it doesn't seem like it'll be going anywhere, going away anywhere. But just like, when Instagram started offering advertising, a lot of businesses weren't sure of, how to do that. And now you see so many businesses advertising on Instagram. So that, Get in the Loop is essentially, wide open for the taking for those businesses that are eager and willing to adapt to the new world and to the new way of consuming or selling and marketing themselves to the local market. So I thank you so much for joining us today to explain, the benefits and the intricacies of this. And we don't have any more questions. So if anybody does, I recommend please just message now and we can get to your question. But if there's no questions, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap up here, Jason and Chris?
Well, I just wanted to say thanks to you and the Squamish Chamber of Commerce for helping to bring this opportunity to everybody in Squamish, and definitely if you're on the line and you've been sitting on the fence wondering whether you should press that button or not, we certainly hope that you come join us and Get in the Loop in our community of people who want to shop locally.
Excellent. And I'll echo Jason's comments as well. And just for anyone that's listening, we have over 2,500 small businesses on our platform, and we have close to 4,000 offers. And those are growing by hundreds a day right now. And so with the program with the Squamish Chamber, we'd encourage you to try our platform, introduce yourselves to our local team, and see if you can kind of take that first or second step into engaging the broader consumer in a more effective way. So we're happy to help in any way we can.
Awesome, thank you. And just to remind everybody who's listening still that the local representative for Get in the Loop is Kurt. And if you have any questions about getting in touch with Kurt, just reach out to the chamber at admin@squamishchamber.com and get you Kurt's email. But it is also on their Facebook and website, and we have information in our newsletters as well. So once again, thank you to Chris and Jason and everybody who joined us today for this fantastic presentation. It's very exciting, and congratulations to you both for being part of this exciting new development in marketing for businesses.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye.